Can you adjust your own neck? Coming right up. Hey, I'm Dr. Ekberg with Wellness for Life. And if you'd like to truly master health by understanding how the body really works, make sure that you subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss anything. Can you adjust your own neck? Well, whether you can or you can't, the question is it a good idea? And the answer is no. It is typically a really bad idea to adjust your own neck. And when we say adjust, then I'm talking about the people that you might see out in public sometimes on a bus or a train or whatever, and they grab their head and they give themselves a nice big lever and they just yank and twist and they get that pop. What's wrong with that is that it's an adjustment that has very, very poor precision. It is very, very unspecific. So what happens is you'll typically have several segments next to each other, and there'll be one segment that is stuck. And then that's the one that you feel tight and that gives you the tension. And then you yank and twist, and what happens is you'll have a cavitation. You'll have a movement of the joints above and below. So you're adjusting the wrong joint. And over time, so it feels good because you get that pop, but in the long run, it gets worse because you're creating hypermobility above and below, and that tight segment is getting more stuck than ever. So I would recommend you find a chiropractor who can adjust specifically and move the segment that needs to move. Now, what you can do is that if you do it carefully, if you just stretch in general, if you sit down and then you stand up and you really stretch and you get a pop or two, that's not a bad thing. That's just the body kind of self-adjusting as you move about. And if you're stretching and you kind of move your neck carefully and you give yourself a little stretch and it pops a little bit, that's not a big deal. That's just your body self-regulating, self-correcting. But if you start pulling and yanking and trying to get the pop, then that's not a good idea. Something that you can do, however, is if you go to a chiropractor or not, if you do, then in between adjustments, you can support the adjustment by doing little stimulations yourself, but without the popping. So what you do is, let's say you have a really tight neck, and you find a tender spot, find the really tight spot, and you rub it a little bit. And then while you're rubbing it, you start doing some movements. So you bend forward, you bend back, you turn to the left, you turn to the right. And as you're doing this, you're combining the proprioception, the incoming signals from the point of rubbing. You're adding to that the signals from the motion. So now you're giving the brain more information about that area, and it's not as effective as an adjustment, but it can give the brain a little bit of information to get by in between adjustments. You can do the same thing for the lower back. So if you have some stiffness, just find the spot where it's tight, whether it's on the sacrum or low back, and then you can walk in place, you can shift your weight a little bit, you can do a little hula circle with the hips, you can kind of arch your back and tilt your hips forward and back, move a little bit while you're rubbing, and then you're adding the proprioception from the rubbing to the motion of moving, the active motion. And it's not as effective as an adjustment again, but it can provide some very, very useful and some relief for information for the brain in between adjustments. So I do that when I feel a little stiff. If I'm out traveling, if I'm driving, then anytime I go to a rest stop, then I'll get out of the car and I'll do these things. I'll do the three-winged friends, which we have another video on. I'll do the rubbing on my back, the hip stretches, just because I'm sitting so much that there is very little proprioception. The body gets stiff when you sit that long. So once you have a chance, you want to create a little movement, a little increase in signals, and that way you get through the quick trip much easier. And at the end of the trip, you're not going to be as stiff as if you just sat all the time. So if you enjoy content like this and you're new to this channel, make sure that you subscribe and hit that notification bell. And make sure to share this content, because this information is life-saving. It's not about pain, it's about how the body works. How do we restore the body to normal so that symptoms go away and we can enjoy optimal health? Thanks for watching.